Welcome, everyone. I hope you can all hear me properly and see the presentation. Welcome to the panel discussion of BDTI from the European Commission on showcasing EU innovation. Today we have a panel discussion where some public administrations will present their data-driven use cases. We have until 12:30 today. I'd like to just start off with a couple of introductions and a welcome. My name's Alice. I'm from Accenture, but working with BDTI over the past few months. We also have some of my colleagues here with us today, both from Accenture and from the BDTI team. We'll be here to facilitate the discussion and to give a quick introduction to BDTI at the beginning. We also have the project lead, Maria Claudia Bodino, with us to introduce what is BDTI. But the focus of the discussion today will be with our panelists from 3 different administrations across the EU to present their use cases. Before we get started, I would just like to say to not hesitate to reach out in the chat. You can also feel free to introduce yourselves so that we all have an idea of who is with us today. You'll also see in the bottom right of your screen in WebEx, you have 3 dots. You can use those dots to get to the Q&A section. I really urge you to think of questions as you're listening to the presentations. Maybe you'd like to know more about a specific topic or understand how they came up with these use cases or know more about the implementation. So feel free to put those questions in the Q&A section at any point. And after each presentation, we'll have time for a Q&A. And we'll also have a Q&A at the end in case you have any more questions that you didn't think of or that you'd like to ask to all the panelists. You can still put those questions in the Q&A at the end. And of course, don't hesitate to interact in the chat as well. So for the agenda today, we have quite a packed agenda, so I'm going to get started straight away. We first have this welcome and introduction. Then I'll hand over to Maria Claudia for what is BDTI. And then we'll get into our panel discussion where we'll have 3 use cases. After each use case, or well, actually we'll have more use cases, we'll have 3 presentations. After each presentation, we'll have some time for a quick Q&A. And as I said, at the end, then we'll have a Q&A with all 3 of our panelists. So from the Lisbon City Council, we have Valter Ferreira presenting on understanding crowd flows through mobile devices data. And from the City of Aarhus, we have Fristed presenting on sensors, data and value. Then our 3rd panelist is from the University of Ljubljana, where we have Matej Radinja, and he'll be presenting on automated modeling and design of urban stormwater control measures. So without further ado, I will hand over the word to Maria Claudia Bodino, our project lead from the BDTI at the European Commission. So over to you, Maria Claudia.
Thank you, Alice. Hi, everyone. And also welcome to our guests and also to our speakers. And thanks a lot for your presentation. So as Alice just mentioned, my name is Maria Claudia Bodino, and today I'm very happy to be here with my team. We have also Aurora, Kim, and the consultant that are helping us with this project. And before going in the different presentation, let me provide you a very quick overview about this big data test infrastructure. That is a platform, a data science playground that the European, let's say, Commission founded by the Digital Europe program. It is a huge program trying to support public sector, but also private sector and academia, was trying to, let's say, putting in place and provide a free environment for public administration around Europe, small, medium, and also big public administration like ministry, in order to become a bit more data literate, and also in order to improve the data literacy and the knowledge about data and the data science in general. Even more now, where AI is becoming very popular, and we need to keeping in mind that in order to develop, also to be aware about the AI potentials and also the risk, we need to have a strong foundation around data and also around all the main pillars, for example, data quality, data interoperability. This is where the big data test infrastructure fits the needs. And it's also an infrastructure that is completely open source. It is already developed in the cloud. If we move to the next slide, in this presentation, I would like to quickly provide you some insights, also some numbers about our developments, also our interaction with public administrations in these last years. So first of all, the main goal was and still is to publish and to support public administration implementing pilots. And these pilots were almost targeting specific domain areas, for example, smart cities, mobility, helping public servants to analyze data from traffic, also from citizen, let's say, mobility, and also try to understand how to boost and how to push for new policy and for new services that are more, let's say, citizen, supporting citizens, also in general supporting public good. In this program, we interact with many stakeholders, and specifically we interact with different organizations and with different public administration, specifically with academics that are working in public sector innovation. And we met more than 500 stakeholders. The last important pillar in our initiative is to support public servants improving their data skills. And this is exactly where we develop many initiatives, like, for example, workshops where we were coding together in order to analyze open data. This is the main, let's say, aspect of the big data test infrastructure. We were trying to analyze data available for free, open data, in order to, let's say, identify business challenges, and also in order to provide some snippets of code that you can reuse for free. Everything is available as open source in our repository in GitHub, and you can easily watch all the webinars. They are always available, also the one we had yesterday in YouTube, and we really we strongly invite you to take a look to this great material that we publish in these last weeks and also in the last month. If we move forward, I just want to quickly provide you an overview about the different tools we are offering in the big data test infrastructure. Probably many of you are already quite familiar with the data journeys, and you can see that for each of the data journey steps, we are offering at least 2 different open source solutions. So you can see that from data collection to data processing, finally to data visualization, we have and we push for open source solution. You can see like products like MongoDB, Apache Spark, but also QGIS for geodata analytics, of course, Jupyter notebooks, and for example, Apache supersets. These tools are in our infrastructure. You can easily start developing using them because they are already set up. But in case you don't want to, let's say you are not taking advantage of this big data test infrastructure, all these tools are freely available in the web. So you can download it and start playing and having fun with all of them. If we move to the next slide, we just want to share with you some interesting pilots that we develop during this program. And you can see some nice icons here regarding the country where the pilots have been developed, but also the main domain area. And we currently have pilots from Finland, from Greece, from Germany, and also from Italy around many different very challenging topics like mobility, but also about public services, for example, in Greece, and also about environmental issues. There is this very, very cool example from Bochum, from Germany, where they are collecting data, real-time data from sensors that are scattered in the different trees in the city, and they are building a machine learning model on top of these data sets. The idea is to predict the resilience of the trees, but also to understand a little bit better the environmental condition and the quality in the city. Then in the past, during COVID, BDTI was successfully implemented and let's say adopted to quickly set up an infrastructure to analyze let's say pandemic responses. For example, in Florence, they were assessing data from citizens to understand the impact of lockdown, but also in other places like in Valencia, they were using BDTI to analyze text information from many different papers and researchers. So this is about what have been let's say what have been done, what we are trying to do, and what we are trying to achieve. If we move to the next and the last slide, what we really recommend is to have a look to our different resources. Thank you, Alice. So the idea is that we invite you to access and also to discover the different case studies that we are presenting. We also highly recommend you to check our different templates and tools that we are offering to have a bit of, let's say, big pictures around data analytics and data science. And also, we are pushing a lot in terms of data skills development for webinars and also real code development to implement your data-driven solution. Visit our website. You can find tons of resources from Canvas to define your business challenge. I also try to identify the main issues they are going to face in the definition of your data use case, but also try to check the different tools we are offering, the resources, and the different learning opportunities that we offer in the website. Feel free to subscribe to our newsletter, that is always very rich in terms of contents and let's say materials also from public administration all around Europe. And now let's move to the main core of this presentation. So thanks again, Alice, and enjoy the use cases.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this introduction. So I will just give a quick overview of why we organized this webinar in the context of BDTI, because we have created an inventory of use cases that will be published. And today is an opportunity to get a sneak peek into some of those use cases in the inventory. The aim of the inventory is to inspire public administrations to leverage open source data tools to implement data-driven solutions that benefit the people we serve. So today we'll get some of those insights into a few use cases And in the new year, we'll share with you this inventory that hopefully might inspire you with a few ideas of concrete examples of how data analytics can help public services. So without further ado, I will introduce our first panelist. Valter Ferreira is an intelligence specialist at the Lisbon City Council's Smart Management Centre, advancing the city's data-driven initiatives. As co-chair of the Eurocities Digital Forum Lab, he contributes to smarter and more sustainable cities across Europe. Valter also evaluates high-impact urban projects for EUIA proposals and data spaces for smart and sustainable cities and communities. He has led significant digital transformations in Lisbon, including the city's first e-government strategy and the Lisbon Open Data Portal. Currently, he is shaping the Smart Lisbon Strategy 2030, along with many other projects at home and internationally. And today, he will present his use case on understanding crowd flows through mobile devices data. I know you've got an interesting presentation for us, so I'll let you go ahead, Valter. Thank you.
Can I start to share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if everything goes. All right. Goes. Okay, thank you, Alice. Thank you so much for your introduction of myself. But first off, before starting, allow me to...
Sorry, Valter, right now we see the other screen, not the main presentation.
Not the main yet?
There we go, that's right.
Okay,
Thanks.
it takes always a little bit of time until it starts to do this one. I don't know why. But I was saying that first of all, before starting, I would like to congratulate BDTI for this wonderful playground that you guys created. Because even more than the playground, it shows us a catalog of tools that are open source and that can be used by all of us public servants to innovate, to create new solutions, to, well, to not have more excuses not to do it. Everything now is here and easy to do. So, but now let's jump into the presentation I'm here to deliver and to talk about how utilizing mobile devices data for urban crowd management and tourism analysis within the city of Lisbon. So how can we find here innovative solutions for a smarter city, and more than a smart city, a wiser city? And by saying this, I will take you guys now through some contextual information, and then I will jump into real-time live demonstration of the visualizations that we use to understand crowd flows within the city. We had a challenge, an urban challenge. Lisbon hosts huge events year-round. Last year we had the World Youth Day, that was the visit of the Pope, that the city during 3 days had more than 1.5 million attendees. We have big events like Rock in Rio, that is a Brazilian rock festival that brings lots of big names of the music. We have in the riverside our New Year's Eve that draw thousands more of people from all the points of our country and even from abroad. We also want to understand the dynamic movement, how people move around the city, how is this flows critical for public safety and resources allocation. And also, we want to understand how people enter and go out of the city in a daily basis. People that come from the 11 main entry and exit points to work in the city, just to cross the city to go to other surrounding outskirts municipalities. This was the challenge, to understand this, and how can we understand this? And we try to leverage this by access mobile devices data. We are talking about anonymized data that we collect via the cell tower triangulations every 5 minutes. We have information every 5 minutes with a small delay of 30 to 45 minutes because of the anonymization. We divided the city in 200 per 200 meter spatial segmentation. We have so small grid that identify that small areas, and our main goal is to keep people in privacy. Privacy first is our approach. So we only have data if in that 200 per 200 meter special segmentation there are more than 10 devices. If less, we don't. For us, it's like 0. And so we have the data, we have the problem, we find a way to tackle it, we have data. So now let's move this data into insights. So let's count the number of devices. Let's analyze the grids and how people move from grid A to grid B, from grid B to grid C, and how they go back to A, how we flow in the city. Let's identify patterns in the crowd densities and movements. And also let's see who is there as a tourist and who is there permanently, who lives there. So we distinguish tourists via the roaming, if they are connected through roaming towards a SIM card from a different region than Portugal. So what were our transformative outcomes? We had better decision making. We have real-time information to make decisions. We increase public safety because we can control crowds or understanding crowds in that moment and have a more proactive response than a reactive one. We can understand tourism. We can understand who visits Lisbon. We can know who is in Lisbon and why are they in Lisbon. And we can even improve our traffic optimization. We can have a smarter traffic management if we understand if the people use the city more to cross to an outskirt municipality or if they use to come in the city and park within the city. All these guide us to a smarter Lisbon, where we are enhancing quality of life and public safety. We have more insights to have better services, better tourism, understanding better those who visit us, and we are setting Lisbon as a benchmark in smart innovation. So this was the contextual information that I wanted to give to you guys, and I will now, if everything collaborates, moving forward to a lifetime presentation within our platform. Alice, can you just tell me if you guys are seeing the Lisbon map in this moment?
Not yet.
So I will,
delayed.
I will give you a compass because in my screen it says that we are sharing it.
I still see the slides for now.
Okay. Well, I can try to stop sharing and reshare. No, it's gonna. Do you see still the slides? Yeah. Okay, I will stop sharing and I will reshare.
Yeah.
Okay. And I will even close my PowerPoint presentation so it's not here doing nothing. I want to share this. Okay, I think now you see the Lisbon in a map, right? The map of Lisbon.
Exactly.
Okay, this is our urban management platform. And here is where we see what's going on in the city. I will guide you to like 3 very fast examples because the time is time, and I want to pass the ball over to you guys to pop up some questions because that's the interaction part of it. I started by talking about managing events, and we created a tool for events, and I will show you an event that probably all of you are very familiar with. That is the Web Summit that happened last month in November, and that brings together a lot of entrepreneurs within the city. To monitor this event, I just opened these details here about the event, but what I want to show you is the dashboard where everything happens. And in this dashboard, we can see how was the crowd flowing in that moment within the event area. This is the event area, and is now giving me data because it's stuck in time, of course, for the 8:55 when the event finished on the 14th of November. Let's see a peak hour of the event. Let's put here the 14th, that was the last day, but around, let's say, 2 o'clock. Let me update. And at 2 o'clock of that day, there were 16,000 people within the event. You can imagine managing an event of this dimension. And 54% of those people attending the event were using SIM cards from any other region that not Portugal. You can here see, and if I put my mouse here, you can see this tooltip that say, for instance, in this area, we had the top 5 countries that were represented there, apart from Portugal, were United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Germany, and Ukraine. This way you can understand who is attending the event also in terms of nationalities, you see, and they all change from square to square. We use this in all kind of events. Just imagine any kind of event. And this was an event that was pre-programmed that we could see at that exact time. I prepared here one that I want to show you straight away. That, for instance, yesterday we had a football match in the city. This is the stadium where the football match happened. It was Benfica from Portugal versus Bologna from Italy. And here is the stadium yesterday at 6:45 with 34,000 people in the stadium, 25% foreigners. I would bet more Italians, exactly. Italian, because Bologna is from Italy, then Switzerland, Spain, France, Netherlands, but Italy always in the top, as you can see here in the surrounding areas of the stadium and the stadium itself. And if you look at the border specs, you can see the crowd growing during the day until the time of the game. And then if I would increase the time lapse here, we would see a decrease on this. I was talking to you guys about entering and exit the cities. These are the main points of exit and entering the city. Now we are doing these analysis in the platform itself, in the PGIL, in our urban management platform, but we used to do this in Superset, one of the tools that Marie Claudia was talking to you about in the previous presentation. In this one, I can also have a clear image. How is the city in this moment? You see here the blue dot is the roaming mainly in the downtown area of the city, and the big concentrations of cell phones today and at this time are here close to the shopping areas. It's Christmas. It's normal that shopping areas have way more crowd these days than all the others. We also use the tool, this data of cell phones to decision making. Imagine that you are a project team and you need to take decisions. This was the rebuild of a big square in Lisbon, so we needed to understand how the mobile devices or people behaved in that area. So we created these visualizations for my colleagues of planning and understand the flow of people within the data of the cell phones in that square by our period. This way we can understand where we can intervene first, when we can intervene last, if there is a need to intervene, who are we affecting if we need to intervene. We also prepare this information of the cell phones for the mayors when they have the public meetings with the population, so they can understand how that area behaves. Let's see, I'm opening in Santa Maria Maior, that is in the downtown area of the city, and you can see here that during the 3 o'clock in the morning, there is nobody, almost. But if you see in the peak of the afternoon at 3 o'clock, it's crowded. If I go to a residential area, let's say Benfica, for instance, you will see the opposite behavior. You see, actually, it's full because it's Christmas and we have the shopping center there. Let me go to Parque das Nações. That is more residential, well, or Penha de França. Okay, Penha de França. You see, there is more people in the night sleeping than during the day when they are moving. And talking about sleeping, I don't have that data set yet because we are still working on it. We want to understand where the cell phone overnights, so we can understand from where people that are moving into Lisbon during the day are coming from. We have that data just received a couple of days ago. We are still working on that. We'll have it in a quarterly base, that data, to understand where people that enter in Lisbon come from by knowing where the devices that are in the city were the night before, doing the average. And just to wrap it up, showing you the vision of the city as we speak. As we speak, the city is behaving like this. This is data from almost 1 hour ago, 9:40. And you see the red is more people moving to this area, and the light blue is people going out of that area. So here we can understand how people are flowing into the city. I can just see regarding roaming, or I can see this in the public space that is available to avoid crowd concentration. If it's red, means that there is a lot of people in this area, and this is something that we need to address, to take measures, or just to understand if it's an outlier. It's just some data that is wrong. This is the public space of the city to compare with this weight of the cell phones that are within the city. We don't limit it to just to things that we predict. We allow the user to create his own grid. He has his own grid, and he can choose what he wants to see. Let's go again to it's Christmas, so let's do some shopping. Let's go to the biggest shopping center of Lisbon, and let's see if we have a lot of people shopping today or not really. It's 10 o'clock, the shopping center is just opening. Let's see this area. And then I will pass the ball over to you guys for some questions. So no, it's very empty still, the shopping center, only 600 people. 15% are with the SIM cards from abroad. But if you look here, yesterday at 7:30, almost 80,000 people were inside of the shopping center. That's a lot of people. And I can see here the evolution during the last 24 hours within that area, as you can see. So I think for the 20 minutes that I have, I did a great overview of this, but now I want to hear you guys pop up some questions. We are here to answering everything you may need. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Valter, for this interesting presentation, and especially for the live aspect. It's interesting to see how Lisbon is moving. And I had one question related to, once you have all this data, which seems like it can be useful in many different ways that you explained at the beginning, but then how do you work with the event organizers to communicate this information, or how can it then be used?
So in terms of the events organizers, depend. If it's events organized by us, normally we create a center where all the main entities responsible for the event are together, and we have this projected in dashboards that can be used. Normally this is coordinated by the civil protection of the city, because all the events have civil protection within it. So, for instance, for the Youth World Day, the visit of the Pope, it's easier to select this. We had a very big command center with national police, international police, Vatican police, and all that. That all of and the organization of the Vatican of the event, all together, looking at these dashboards, at this data, and working together. If it's a small-scale event, let's say a football match. It's the civil protection that is controlling the organization of the event, like the football federation or the football clubs. They are not looking at this data. They don't want to look at them. It's only for us as city managers to look at the data. If it's an event that is patrocinated by the municipality, or we have some partnership there, let's say like Rock in Rio, the rock festival, normally there is always a cell phone operator there, and we together with that cell phone operator, we are always comparing the numbers to see if our numbers are more accurate or not that accurate. So there is always a big coordination between event planners and us within this. And we want to expand for sure in the future, even to more detailed analytics on these numbers, of course.
Okay, fantastic. I think there'll be more questions at the end,
okay,
but I think
I will be around.
Yeah. For now, we'll move on to our next presentation, so that we have time, I think, for more questions at the end. But thank you very much, Valter, for
You're
this.
welcome. I have to thank you guys for the invitation and the opportunity to present, to showcase the Lisbon case.
Yeah, it's incredible and great to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So for our next presentation, we have Bo Fristed from the City of Aarhus. Bo Fristed is the head of ITK, the Innovation, Technology, Creativity in the City of Aarhus. In addition, he is chairman of Open Data DK, chairman of OS2, and council member of the Municipal IT Architecture Council in Denmark. Bo has been working in the smart city scope for many years. He has an open mind and prioritizes working with open technologies that can be shared and scaled in a good and economically sustainable way. The City of Aarhus is a mentor city in the 100 Intelligent Cities Challenge. Bo has been engaged in OASC for many years, and of course, also part of the Living in EU movement and the Join, Boost, Sustain Declaration. He is involved in a wide range of EU projects and initiatives, and today we'll be presenting a few use cases related to sensors, data, making value. So without further ado, Bo, I'll give you the floor and I will let you share your screen as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, is it okay now? You can see the screen?
Yeah, perfect. I can see, thanks.
And thank you very much for having me and giving this opportunity to tell a bit about some of the cases we're working with in Aarhus. Aarhus is the #2 city in Denmark out of 98 municipalities, and we have really good tradition to working together. What I'm going to present to you is now spreading out to other municipalities in Denmark. So I'm going to tell you a bit about the infrastructure that we use when we are working with IoT. I'm going to tell you about 3 small cases. They're not so small, but they are fast. And then I have some conclusions at the end. First of all, my key point is to show that if you have one platform that you prefer, if you are using open transmission types and also, of course, open source platforms, it's very easy to create cases on top of that. So the cases I'm going to tell you a bit about, they are all using this platform, and it's extremely cost effective, which also is quite important for our city as it is for many other cities, to have some thoughts about how we are spending the money we collect from the citizens. So actually, back in 2017, we put up our own network. We are using so-called LoRaWAN, which is a transmission technology that's open. You can actually use it for free. You have to have your own gateways, antennas in the city, but if you have that, you can for free transmit data types from anywhere in the city, the municipality, and into our central servers, so we can create some value out of the data. We have 50 gateways online. They are put up on public buildings, libraries, schools, and stuff like that. So we don't have any costs in having the antennas. They use a little bit of electricity, but that's all. That's all. So we practically have no cost of transmission of data at all. In comparison, we should maybe 2 or 3 euros per sensor per month. If you have like we have 1,000 sensors in our parking lots, it's really a big expense, a big cost you have in your IoT cases. But we have eliminated that and are saving so much money on that. Just one new case, and this is not one of them. of those I'm going to tell about, but we have a quite new initiative where our water facility has to monitor the use of water in 70,000 homes. If we are using our LoRaWAN, instead of buying the transmission, we can save 2 million euros over a 5-year period, and at the same time expand our network capacity with 700%. So this is a commercial for LoRaWAN. It's really cheap and it's really good. On top of that, we have an open source platform for all our IoT initiatives in the city. We have a principle in the city that kind of a follow or explain principle where you have to use this infrastructure unless there's a really good reason not to. Most of the platform actually are built by blocks, fireware components that are created in earlier EU projects and now handled in the Fireware Foundation. And then we have a common municipal network server put together. It is our IoT platform. As it says, it's 100% open source, like the BDTI. So now I'm going to go into 3 different cases. One of them is an initiative we call Fleet Optimizer. It's a platform. It was created by public money 2 years back. Basically, it's a sensor in each of our cars. We have about 850 cars in the city of Aarhus. So we can monitor the use of the car. We can also always see where it is. We can give easy access to colleagues that needs a car. But the main thing is that we're using AI to analyze how we can optimize the fleet. So just in one of our departments, we have a case here where we have 25 minibuses run by diesel, and the platform could, by the actual use, guide us to replace them with 14 electric buses when they're going to be changed next. So only in this one case we have a reduction in the yearly operation cost on 700,000 euros. Yeah, and when you scale it up to 850 vehicles in Aarhus, and then also know that for now 14 municipalities are using the platform, there really is a big potential in not only reducing costs, but also reducing the emissions from the cars we can transform to bikes or to electric driven vehicles. This is one case. Another case using the same infrastructure is our initiative where we are monitoring the use of our public buildings. We have sensors underneath desks so that we can see the occupancy rate. I think after COVID, there's a lot of people working home. We also have jobs where we are not on the same desk all the time. So now we can monitor that, and we can decrease the number of desks, or we can maybe save some new building because we are always in need of space. In our meeting facilities, we also have sensors. They are real-time monitoring whether there's people inside the rooms. And we are using those data to optimize the design of our office buildings, but also to, for instance, cancel a booked meeting if a meeting room is not being taken in use 9 minutes in Aarhus after it should be, after it was booked. So this is an automatic service that keeps most of our meeting rooms as available as possible. On top of that, we're using the data to make real-time visualization where we can give information to the colleagues in a building about where they can find a free meeting room. The last case is about refrigerators, freezers, and medicine cabinets. Maybe a small thing, but actually we have some EU regulation that says that if you have a freezer or a refrigerator where you have food or medicine that are going to the citizens, you have to monitor the temperature once a day. You have to document it so you can show it when the authorities are coming to control, and also you have to keep the documentation historical. This is a manual task for many cities, or municipalities. We have created a really neat, easy, and cheap solution where we put in a sensor. The price is about 40 euros. The sensor has batteries for 5 years, and with that investment, we can automatically monitor the temperature. We can do the documentation, save the data, and also we can give information to the owner of the refrigerator if there is an unusual development in the temperature. Maybe it needs to be changed for a newer model that doesn't use so much energy and stuff like that. So we can send out alerts if there's something wrong about the temperature during the day's monitoring. So actually this is 3 small cases. They're easy to scale. They are all built on this platform that is interoperable, a new word we are learning in EU these days. So just to say that there's no need to buy a jet plane to go to the baker. You can adjust your needs to you can adjust your platforms to your needs. Also by focusing on one common and open infrastructure, we can create so many solutions in our city because we have a plug and play facility where it's not anymore a question about a whole platform. Every time we want to create a new service, we have the basic platform, and then we can put services on top of that. We own all the data. This is really important for us, and we have it in our own environment, not locally, but in the cloud. And also all the data can be shared. That can be shared, of course, are going to be open data, so that anyone else can have great value out of them. So actually, this was my presentation. I think I'm within the time frame.
Yes, thank you very much, Bo. And I liked that you don't need to buy a jet to go to the bakery. I think that's a nice saying. But thank you very much for the presentation. It's also really interesting to see with these sensors, you seem to have both some helpful data analytics that works with Aarhus, the City of Aarhus on the day-to-day, and helps you with things like booking a meeting room, making sure that the space is used in the best way, and also in the long term that you then have this data that shows you how the buildings are being used as a whole. So it kind of has both a long-term and a short-term objective, which is really nice. I do have a couple of questions for you that I've thought of, but also to the attendees listening, don't hesitate to put your questions or comments in either the chat or the Q&A. But what was the main challenges that you faced when setting up the sensors?
I think actually the main challenge is not about the technology or the sensors in itself. It's really about scaling. It's about getting the solutions out in the entire city or in other municipalities. I think if I can say a bit about the gateways, because we need these antennas to have our LoRaWAN network functioning in the city. Instead of going out and rent some space to put them up, like the mobile companies have to do, we put them up on our own buildings, where we have power supply and where we have also people there, and we put them on the municipalities already existing network. So it was kind of it was a good way to reduce the cost, and also obvious to use the infrastructure we already have. We have some places in the woods, in the outskirts of the municipality, where we don't have buildings. So there we are using solar panels to create electricity for the gateways, and that it works really fine. The sensors, if we have any issues about them, it is that there is nowadays still not that many LoRaWAN-based IoT sensors. So we have a bit of an issue about finding the right sensors, but about putting them up, we don't have problems. I run the IoT center in the city, and we have this. Our obligation is to maintain and have the platform. But when we are putting in sensors in the freezers and medicine cabinets or in our vehicles, it is my colleagues in the departments that are handling them. Also, when they are in need of a new battery or something like that, that is part of the maintenance of the city, and not an obligation for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And when you were talking about the fleet optimizer, for example, I was thinking about how can you measure the effectiveness of the fleet optimizer on CO2 emissions or the environmental impact?
It's quite easy. We have metadata around about all our cars, so we know how much their emission are. We know how much mileage they're doing. So it's kind of easy to make this calculation, and the platform helps doing that. So all our cars is put in the platform with this metadata, and when we and then the platform is monitoring how much the cars are being used, and can give us information about how we can optimize the fleet, where we can prioritize electric-driven vehicles, for instance, and also bikes. Regarding to bikes, we can put in a max distance we want our colleagues to drive. So it's kind of there's a lot of work being done if you have the metadata around the existing cars, and also when you put in new vehicles that you need to have these data. And actually, this is also an open source platform, so it's available for anyone who's interested.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and maybe just one last question from me. What inspired these use cases? I know you have many more as well, but did it come from a need from the city, which I imagine it did, or was it more inspired by something you've seen done elsewhere, or maybe a mix?
We have this around our IoT work. We go out and visit the departments in Aarhus, of course, but also we have a collaboration. We have an organization that calls Geodetic Central Denmark, that are 13 municipalities and the regional authorities, where we have a group of people that are searching for new technology, acquiring it, and implementing it together with the cities. And I'm also the head of that organization. So we have these visits around in the other cities and also in the departments in Aarhus, asking the one that have the problems how we can help them to solve them. So it's kind of our way of doing it is we show them the functionality of the technology, and then we ask them, how can you put that in use? And if you want to, we can help you do it.
Okay, yeah, so there's really a kind of feedback approach. Well, thank you very much, Bo. We'll still have time to come back to some questions at the end, but for now, I'll move on to our third presentation. Thank you. So for our third and final presentation of today. Just sharing back my slide. We have Assistant Professor Matej Radinja from the University of Ljubljana. He is a researcher in the Faculty of Civil and Geodetic Engineering, the Department of Environmental Civil Engineering. Matej earned a PhD from the University of Ljubljana in 2022 on the topic of automated modeling and design of urban stormwater control measures. His research includes stormwater management, water supply and reuse, as well as nature-based solutions for water pollution control and numerical modeling of nature-based solutions. So today we will get to see some of this research related to automated modeling and design of urban stormwater control measures. So 3 diverse topics today, and Matej, I'll let you go ahead with your presentation. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning to everyone. And thanks again to the organizers for inviting me to present, or inviting us to present our research. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I think it's just coming on. Yes.
Okay, I will just switch the presentation mode. Okay, now you should see it in full view, I guess. Okay. So as mentioned, the topic will be now urban drainage systems and using a lot of data to optimize these stormwater control measures. So the research that I will present was done in collaboration with my home university, so University of Ljubljana, and together with Jožef Stefan Institute that also comes from Ljubljana, so Department of Knowledge Technologies. So the motivation for our research were problems related to insufficient urban drainage systems or situations. For instance, pluvial floods. You can see on the figure an example of a flood in September of 21 in Ljubljana, when the urban drainage system fails to effectively perform its function. This is namely due to the fact the sewer system is not designed for extreme rainfall events. Second problem, or one of the problems that can also occur in combined sewer systems, are also the combined sewer overflows, which discharge a mixture of untreated wastewater and stormwater into receiving waters. And growing urbanization and climate change make the problem only worse. So this was the root cause of our research. And in order to prevent and mitigate the effect of these effects of uncontrolled stormwater flow, different stormwater control approaches can be applied. On the left-hand side, you see the centralized approach that uses gray infrastructure to detain stormwater within the sewer system, and it doesn't provide any additional benefits to the city. On the other hand, we have the decentralized approach, which typically uses nature-based solutions that slow down and detain surface runoff at its origin. And also it enhances processes typical for natural water cycle, so returning water through infiltration, evaporation back to the natural environment. And they also provide additional benefits like biodiversity and amenity for surrounding areas. So we can use mathematical models to investigate the impacts of different stormwater control measures at catchment scale. And on this work chart, you can see different stages that we follow. So it consists of three phases. The first one is preparation phase, where we define our urban drainage objectives. For instance, do we focus on floods? Do we focus on water quality, amenity, biodiversity? Then we have to define and check our boundary conditions, for instance, building regulations. We develop stormwater control measure scenarios, and we define evaluation criteria for multi-criteria analysis. In the second phase of modeling and simulation, we collect existing and measure data that are then used to set up the catchment hydrological model to quantify the performance of different stormwater control measure scenarios. And in the last phase, the evaluation phase, these results of different stormwater control measures, dimensioning and performance are used within multi-criteria analysis to evaluate and rank scenarios according to their performance. However, there are some problems related to this modeling task. For instance, we have to do model calibration, which is quite complicated task. And in the typical approach, we have limited exploration of new or unconventional model structures. And also there is a limited integration of different models. And all of this can limit the real potential of the models in engineering and decision making. Therefore, the main goal of our research was to overcome some of these gaps by providing partial automation of the presented methodology by using the proposed automated model discovery approach for finding the optimal rainfall-runoff model, for finding the optimal design of stormwater control measures based on target catchment outflow, and multi-criteria evaluation of stormwater control measures using compromise programming. So for automated modeling, we use process-based modeling tool, or short ProbMod, which allows the integration of domain knowledge into the procedure of equation discovery from measured data. This is a hybrid modeling approach, which means that it is knowledge and data-driven, and it automatically identifies both the structure and parameter values of an appropriate process-based model given knowledge library in the form of model components, a conceptual model of the observed system, and measurements. So here with measurements, all of our data comes into play. So first, different candidate model structures are generated from conceptual model and the library. And they are then transformed into a set of equations which enter the parameter estimation subsystem that optimizes the parameter values by minimizing the discrepancy between the observed data and the data obtained by simulating the model. The result is a list of models with fully specified structure and parameter values ranked according to their performance. And of course, we are searching and aiming then to use the model that's performing the best. So in terms of domain knowledge, we had to encode some of the existing models into our knowledge library so that ProbMod, so our software, was able to use it. We first encoded the knowledge on rainfall runoff modeling used by the EPA stormwater management model. Afterwards, three alternative methods for modeling the infiltration process were considered. And this means, so consequently, the complete rainfall runoff model can have different structures depending on the selected infiltration model method. And in our case, the catchment is divided into two sub-areas, the pervious and impervious part. And this results in 9 different plausible models. And this is also our space in which the solution, we search for a solution. And then in the next phase, we encoded also different stormwater control measures. These are based on the principles and equations used by the EPA SWIM for modeling low impact development controls. And these were bioretention cells, rain gardens, green roofs, infiltration trenches, detention ponds, and storage tanks. And we use bioretention cell. You can see a schematic on the figure on the right. We used it as a genetic stormwater control model, which can then be customized to describe the behavior of other stormwater control measure types. Bioretention cells are depressions that contain vegetation grown on a soil layer, on a soil mixture, placed above a gravel storage bed. They provide storage, infiltration, and evapotranspiration of both direct rainfall and also runoff captured from surrounding areas. So then we move to our case study area. So we applied this approach to an experimental urban catchment in Ljubljana, covering an area of 30 hectares and servicing and is serviced by 5 kilometers of combined sewers, as you see here with blue lines. We had two data sources, so flow measurements were conducted by Ljubljana Water Company. You can see here location of the flow meter at the southern point of the catchment, and we had measurements of precipitations or rainfall by Slovenian Forestry Institute or on the northern side of the catchment. And the predominant land use in this area are family houses with gardens, and buildings cover approximately 24% of the area and roads approximately 21% of the area. And in the remaining, so in the previous part of the catchment, we tried to place and also design different stormwater control measures. In terms of measurements, so within the flow measurement period, we had 4 rainfall periods for model calibration. So yeah, going from C1 to C4, and 4 rainfall periods for model validation from V1 to V4. We can divide them into 2 subgroups, so shortened ones lasting approximately 1 day and longer ones lasting approximately 7 days. And within the automated modeling procedure, the rainfall was used as model input and flow measurements were used as target function for rainfall runoff model calibration and validation. Within the case study area, PROMOT was used in the first stage for discovery of the optimal model structure and parameters among viable rainfall runoff models. In the second stage, the best performing rainfall runoff model was used to simulate catchment outflow for different extreme rainfall events. And in the last phase, the optimal stormwater control measure design was based on target catchment outflow, where rainfall event with a high rainfall intensity can only result in outflow typical for rainfall event with a lower intensity. So if we look at the results, all rainfall runoff models on average performed very good for all calibration and validation periods. Difference can be noticed for individual rainfall periods. And model number 3, which uses a combination of 2 different infiltration methods, performed best and was used for further analysis. So if we move to the results of stormwater control measure design, here the task was to design, as I already mentioned, to design the stormwater control measure so that the rainfall with higher intensity, for instance, with a 10-year return period, we can see here with gray line the outflow that's typical for a 10-year return period, should result in outflow typical of a lower intensity event. So in our case, 5-year return period, which is the blue line. So the task was that when we are using the stormwater control measure, one of them, the outflow should be lower than the target catchment outflow. And you can see on this graph that this was achieved. And here we see an example when we used a detention pond, and the outflow is then shown with the orange curve. So at the end, the result at the end are different stormwater control measure elements with specific design characteristics, including surface area, layer depth, and material properties. So fully designed measures. So to conclude, we use the proposed automated modeling approach, which was very efficient. So first, to find the most suitable rainfall runoff model by combining multiple alternative models for describing hydrological processes. Then in second stage, we calibrated the rainfall runoff models against measured data. And at the end, we designed 6 stormwater control measure scenarios based on target catchment outflow. And as we showed, all of them were able to meet our criteria. And in the next step of the research, different control measures were also evaluated using multi-criteria analysis. However, today we don't have time to go into that. But if you're interested in this topic, I invite you to follow this link or to visit the website of the modeling tool. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Matej. Thank you very much for this presentation and for all the many conclusions you have so far, and still more to go, I imagine, on your project. I have one question for you, Matej, before we move on to the questions with the panel. I was wondering, how did you collaborate with the local public water company to retrieve this data?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for your question. So we have already quite a long collaboration with them since many times. So we are collaborating in a way that we are doing the research. So we are usually investigating some latest, let's say, trends in the urban drainage sector. And they can provide, let's say, use cases. So they have a lot of data, a lot of measurements from the field, and also very practical problems in terms of they have to solve pluvial floods within the city. So we have a very nice collaboration with our water utility company. In this case, we approach them that we are looking for a case study for this specific task. But in terms of, let's say, practicalities, we had a special agreement that these days data can be only used for this research. And of course, yeah, they have all the measurements in their cloud, but we didn't have direct access to it since we are a kind of external partner. So all of the data was sent to us, yeah, just by sharing.
Okay, and that actually leads me to a question that we have in the chat from Tiago, and I'll ask you, Matej, but then I'll also ask Bo and Valter. You can turn your cameras back on and also respond to this question. That what would be 1 or 2 main challenges faced during your journey in integrating various different data sources?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, in our case, we had 2 data sources, so on rainfall and for flow measurements, so were different data sources. And And we are working here with a long time series of like 1 year, 5 minutes time resolution of the data. But yeah, in this case, many times it happens that we have data that it's not matching in time steps. So we have to do quite a lot of operations to get everything on the same scale. And obviously, sometimes we have missing data or periods when one of the measuring devices is not working. So there is a lot of data quality checks and also kind of merging different data sets into data set that is usable for our models.
Okay. And Valter, did you, for example, have similar challenges integrating different data sources?
I think the hard part for us is not
Okay,
integrating different sources, but the same type of data that are formatted differently. So, and that's also why, you know, the new Interoperability Act helps us to give some demands to our vendors, and the vendors that are, in our case, selling us the IoT sensors, so that we can ask them to deliver with the right formats. At the same time, we built something we call a mapper transformer, so we can actually transform the same type of data that are formatted in different ways into a common approved format. But it's an extra work operation that we would like not to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
The same here actually, because here we can even have let me divide it in 2 layers of data, because one is the internal data, because we are still trying to build a culture of governance based on data, because if we look at data sources that are built within the municipality, we see services building data that they don't keep the same structure over time, so that makes us a big problem. Quality of data is overall most important, and this is actually why to the vendors also now going to the external, the Interoperability Act will be so important, so we can ensure that we all work with the same structure. We don't have to calculate metrics to adjust data. And here in Portugal we had another problem, as you will know. For most of Europe, we are 1 hour ahead of you guys. So every time we change from the summertime to the winter time, we have problem with data, especially with these mobile devices data. I don't know if you noticed when I was showing one of the examples that I was showing you guys, I was showing you 6:45, but in the data it was 5:45. So we always have the tackle here in Portugal of the summer and winter time. For us, and then I have another question there in the Q&A, but I don't know if you go through those also, Alice, after.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Valter. So the question you received was about, do you pay anything for the anonymized mobile operators' data, and how is the use organized in real time for you to have access to their data? Is it transferred? Do you save this data somewhere in a cloud, local infrastructure?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question, actually. I'm listening my voice again back. No, okay. And I asked Marina that made the question if I could keep it for this time, not answering online, because I think that's a question that pops in everybody. So we pay, and we pay a lot for this data. It's in our communications package. So where is all the cell phones or the internet connections of the municipality? It's also a data set with one of the mobile communications vendors that operates in Portugal. We buy this data set. This data set has already in itself some algorithmics that make some calculations to calculate the market share of each operator. And so it's not always an absolute value. It's a value that is extrapolation of values. This data we have access through an API. That's why it's every 5 minutes with this delay between 30 and 45 minutes, because it's where the data is being treated, anonymized, and displayed through the API to reach us. Then We have it in two databases. One that is MongoDB, that is for 8 weeks time of data. We have that data that we are always using in daily analysis. We keep it for 8 weeks, and then we have a bigger server, a crate server that operates over superset. That we kept that forever. Let's say we did not establish yet the time limit that we'll keep the data, but as this project has like 4 or 5 years, it's data that is still useful to keep. But we have 8 weeks and then another server for older data. I think that I addressed all the questions. And it's internal. It's installed within our data center.
Okay. And then that makes me think of a question to all of you. To what extent can or do you use data that is freely available?
All the time. All
All
the
the
time.
time.
Depends on the data, of course, but we have a partnership with Waze, for instance, for traffic management. We have a double partnership with Waze because we also give Waze data. So Waze can know where are the conditions of traffic. If there will be a municipal construction, we inform Waze way before so they can inform the Wazers about it. We use free information from some weather sensors from the governmental institute, from the Weather Institute, also from the metro lines in Lisbon. We also use those because they are public companies, so it's free data. All the free data that is good, we can use, even from the tourism of Portugal regarding local lodging. We also have that information that we use. So if the data set is good and is reliable, we use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what about for you, Bo?
Yeah, we also, of course, are using the weather data that are freely available. Actually, the national government bought free the Danish Meteorological Institute's data 2 years back. So now we have really good data set there. Also in Denmark, we have a national open data source about all the cars and trucks and motorbikes. So if you have a registration number, you can see a lot of metadata around the cars, and we are using that in the fleet optimizer, of course, to get this metadata about, for instance, how much fuel they're using, but also when was the last time the car was checked, and how many mileage has it been driving. So I think we are using all the data, like Walter said, that we can get access to. Right now, in another project, we are, and actually that's an EU project called Biped. We are creating a digital twin in a part of the city, and there we are using all kinds of information, also from the social platforms, and yeah, what we can get just to enrich this digital twin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Bo. And to Matej, the same question.
Yes, also in our case, we are using a lot of open data. I would mention, for instance, when we are developing this rainfall runoff models, we are interested in topological characteristics of the catchment. So in that case, we are using digital elevation models. So from satellite observations, for instance. Then we need information on infrastructure, so sewer system, which is also available in Slovenia for all the public pipes and networks. And also we are using rainfall data that is publicly available with Meteorological Agency of Slovenia. However, there is a funny thing that only with a time step of 30 minutes is available online. So if you need a higher frequency of like 5 minutes that we usually use, you have to ask them for this data. So it's not that you can directly use that data from their server.
Okay, so yeah, in for all three cases, there's lots of open data available as well.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we are at 12:27. So although I would actually love to continue the discussion, I think we'll have to round off for today. But I'd like to thank all the participants for joining. I hope you found some interesting insights into these very diverse topics that we've covered today, from the crowd flows in Lisbon and how that helps them manage large-scale events, and also the day-to-day flows of people across the city, to the sensors data in the city of Aarhus, where they're managing their buildings, their car fleets, their refrigerators and freezers, and more. All the way to Ljubljana, where we saw how they are managing stormwater across the city using data. So thank you very much to our three speakers for your presentations, your preparation, your insights. It's been extremely interesting. And to all of those who might be interested in the broader inventory of use cases, as I mentioned at the beginning, we'll be publishing that in the new year. So we'll be able to send it to attendees, and you'll also find it on the BDTI website that you can find here. The big data test infrastructure, if you search that, or also you can use this QR code. And if you have any other questions after this presentation related to BDTI, you can email the team at the Commission on this email address that you can see here, ec-bdti-pilots. And yeah, thank you very much for all of your time and participation. And I wish you all a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you.